Welcome to the next episode of the Get Carter Production webcast. We've got our newest member of the team, Ben Morris, with us, an award-winning, client-facing, big brand building, audio-tastic chap of 20 plus years in the business. And we're going to ask Ben some questions about sound, what it means to him, what it means to me, and ultimately what it will mean to you. So Ben, welcome.
Cheers, mate.
And first question. What is it about audio that you love? You've been in the business for a long time. What is it that you love about audio?
It's a complicated question because I think the thing is it's really hard for me to remember that first moment of going, there's a thing about audio. There's a thing that you know, it just hits you. So...
Well, that could just be age.
Well, yeah. I mean, if it was age, I wouldn't remember it. What I remember is one of the first Christmas presents I ever remember getting was I got the Adam and the Ants Prince Charming album, and I got a Mr. Bump FM radio. And from that moment, just listening to music and listening to radio was just something I naturally just did. You know, I was born and bred in Middlesbrough, so, you know, TFM was my home station. And it was, you know, listening on the way to school in the car, and then listening, you know, the old Hits Not Homework show and all that sort of stuff. But then it also sort of took a new life when I discovered things like, you know, like the Wilhelm scream or, you know, all of those things that sound has and that sound is, and the memories that they created. And then, you know, as I started getting into radio production and into creative, just hearing from other people about what sound was all about sort of spurred that on even more, you know. Yeah.
And so in relation to sounding, what is it? Why do you think we have an intrinsic connection to audio sound?
I mean, intrinsic is the word because the thing is, it's, you know, it's down in your DNA. You know, from your earliest moments of life, a single cell will vibrate. You know, it'll divide, it'll join with other cells, and it forms your heart. Then your cerebral cortex will develop, and along that, you know, a few days later is your hearing. Basically, from your earliest moments of life, you've been listening. There are examples of cries in the patterns of newborn babies, which are of a similar cadence to the expectant mother. Right. You know, so sound has always been part of our makeup. And then, you know, you look back at, you know, how ancestors would use it, and how, you know, things like Aboriginal tribes would use it, and all of, and, you know, tribes that would then use it to communicate, you know, with, because, you know, it's easier to cast the sound over a rainforest than it is the spoken word. And all of those things are just inherent to who we are. You know, how we use sound, why we use sound, and the way we use it. And it's really hard to define because it's in that DNA, because it's who you are. Mm-hmm.
And so in relation to that, then, it's in us, it's intrinsic to us. How does it work with our other senses, and how does it enhance our other senses, or what's your experience of that?
Well, sound's related. Sound is connected to your brain somewhere in the region of 80 to 100 times faster than any of the senses.
Right.
So if you think about, you know, the 100 metres race, it starts with a bang of a gun going off rather than a flash. So what sound will do is it will complement all of those other senses, that when you hear something, it will trigger something else. So a good example a lot of people will use will be an ice cream van. So you hear the chimes of an ice cream van, and yes, you can see it. You know, you see that image of the, you know, the big white thing and the slidey door and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But that it will be a personal one to you. It will be the one that you had when you were a kid, or the one that you had last time you went to the seaside. But then once you see that ice cream van, you'll get the other sensory development as well. So you'll get the cold taste or the feel of the waffle cone or the smell of the seaside and the salty air. And all of those things are triggered by that sound. And what it enables you to do is create that perfect image of what the ice cream van is. Now, what we can do in advertising with sound is use that simple idea that sound creates perfection. And if you're asking, a listener a question in an ad, or you're trying to want them to visualize something or remember something or build a connection to something, by doing it with sound, they'll do it a lot quicker and a lot easier, and it will be personal to who they are.
And that's the big thing, the personalisation of it, isn't it, when I think about it? Yeah. Okay, so that's sound, obviously a big part of, or one of the box, in our box of tricks of the stuff that, if we've got sound, music, words, how does music fit in with the sound in relation to that?
Music's quite a weird one to a degree, because people get really passionate about their music. You wear badges, literal and metaphorical, for the music and the style of music, the genre of music that you love.
And never the twin shell music.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
I remember, going out when I was 16, 17, 18, and my music was 4th floor dance music, and anybody else that didn't listen to 4th floor dance music was an idiot, in my opinion. It wasn't. But what you end up doing is you end up enjoying particular things about music, and you'll take things through. The interesting thing about it is that there's certain things about music that you can use in advertising that, again, are intrinsic to who you are. So, you take, and I'm not a classical music fan. I don't really know much about classical music at all. But as an advertising tool, it can be really useful, because the formation of classical music is basically strings, woodwind, and drums. Now, obviously, drums are well known for heartbeat and rhythm and keeping that sort of thing. But strings make you sound professional, because you're inherently designed to recognise strings as quite classy.
Yes.
So John Lewis, we were talking earlier about the new John Lewis Christmas ad. What John Lewis have done really well is took songs that people love or people are aware of and like, and either strip them down to something simple, because what they want to do is get across that idea that, if something's simple, there's no worries to it. You can just go for the ride. You don't have to. It's not complicated.
Yeah.
It's it's really straightforward. Whereas if you have a song where you change the rhythm a little bit, or you change the orchestration, you can build that connection with people. Like I say, because it's strings, or if it's brass, because brass is big and bold.
Yeah.
Because the instruments are, euphoniums, yes. You can't fit them in your pocket.
No.
But they are big and brassy and bold, and you're aware of that, because that's what they do. And the other thing about it as well with music is, instruments, in their simplest form, do certain sounds, and you can associate with what those sounds are. Woodwind sounds, it's a little bit, it's light and breezy and a bit comical, because is the sort of thing that, again, you were used to hearing as a kid.
Yeah, I was just chuckling because, anyway, forget that. So the right blend. What do we mean by that? How do we get the right blend?
I mean, it will all stem from the brief.
Yeah.
Everything that we do and everything that audio creative can do needs that solid foundation. The blend then is down to knowing, if you're talking about sound and music and voice, which are the sort of the three cornerstones of what we've got to play with. Knowing that actually sometimes more is more. You need it to sound big, and it needs to sound orchestral, both musically and with the style of voice they use. But actually, sometimes when it comes to, before you even get to that stage and you're sitting down writing something, just back it off a little. Everything doesn't have to be, one of my pet hates is 30-second adverts that have got 30 seconds worth of copy in, because there's no room to breathe. There's no room for people to think. There's no room for
connection.
You don't have to say next door's dog kept me up all night. You can just have the sound of the dog barking. There are ways and quite simple ways that what you can do is build that whole picture with sound and music and voice, and trying to, again, how music can tie into the voice is that what you'll find is that it's something called the speech to song illusion. So it was discovered by a lady called Diana Deutsch, who's a psychologist. And the short version of it is that basically when you're listening to something, your brain reinterprets what you're hearing and puts it into the rhythm of song. So if you're selecting a piece of music that you're going to use in an ad, if you can try to match up, the beats, the drops, the breaks in that music to the rhythm of the voice, it does make it more memorable. People will remember song lyrics more than they will poetry. When my kids were doing their GCSEs and A-levels, which is longer ago than it looks, you can say yes at that point. I know there's a bit of salt and pepper in there, but no, okay. I never passed an exam in my life. I failed cycling proficiency. I'm just rubbish at that sort of thing. But because of the speech to song illusion, I could say to my kids that when it comes down to remembering the stuff that you have to know for an exam, dates, formulas, orders of things, but the stuff that actually most people aren't designed to remember, it's called cramming for a reason.
Yeah.
If you can learn that stuff whilst listening to a piece of instrumental music, when it comes to, sitting in the big hall with the pen in front of you, if you remember the rhythm of the music, you remember the lyrics, you remember the facts, the dates, and all that malarkey. So the speech to song illusion, working with the music and working with the voice, and then you talk about things like, the style of voice, what do you want, what does the brand want to sound like? What does the brand want the listener to take away from it? Do you want to be big, bold and confident? Do you want to be, do you want to shout from the rooftops that you are the best at what you do? Do you want to be a little bit more subtle than that? Do you want it to be, a natural delivery? All of these things are what you pick out from the brief as facts.
Yes.
And it's then how you interpret those using sound and music and voice to put the jigsaw together.
So like so much of the stuff that we talk about, and we've talked about it on different episodes of this podcast, the brief is key.
Oh, it's absolutely everything.
It is, yes. And yeah, we must never ever forget that.
I remember when I started, one of the people I worked with who sort of guided me into doing the job that I do was like, what a good brief should do is it should ask the stupid question. And it isn't always just about who you are. It's about either your potential customer and audience is, but also about your competition. So what's the one thing your competition could do that would make you worry? Because if you're aware of that, why aren't you doing it? So brief taking is absolutely, like I say, it's the foundation to what we do.
Okay. That's really, it's interesting. It's a little snapshot, and without giving all of your secrets away. A takeaway for people that's watching. What's the big takeaway in and around audio, sound, music?
I think it's always important to remember how, when, and why people are listening to something. They are going to have a passion about a particular style of music, a radio station, a podcast, whatever it is. And it's not a case that you're interrupting the flow of that. You're being part of it. So the sound that you do needs to be, deferential to that moment. The days of audio ads being loud and obnoxious and having bangs and whistles and voices that sound different because you don't listen to them anymore are long gone.
Yeah.
I think the thing is with sound, and particularly with sounds as a thing, the thing that I really love about them, and the thing that still drives me to this day, is the things that you can do with them and the things that are being done. So the old chestnut of, they can put you behind the wheel of your new car, or they can put you on a Caribbean beach, or they can remind you of the time that, you picked your kids up from school and all those noises. There is something that I would love people to watch, which is, it was a documentary on Netflix a few years ago called Alive Inside. It might not be on Netflix now, but it's definitely available on YouTube. And it's about something called the Music and Memory Project. Now, these guys are using sound to help patients with dementia and Alzheimer's. And there's a particular guy in it whose name is Henry. And I don't want to spoil it too much because people really should watch this documentary. But everybody gets an iPod, and they're full of sounds and music and voices from their childhood, their loved ones, things that are important to them. And watching that documentary and seeing the difference sound and music and voices can make, for even a short period of time, to people with dementia and Alzheimer's, is the thing that drives me about what sound can do. They're not in isolation. People do have a connection to them. People are inherently, and as I say, at a DNA level, designed to appreciate sound, to be able to visualize what that sound is for them. It's not just a car, it's their car. It's not just the sound of a baby laughing because, you've just bought you want somebody to buy a really good nappy that's going to keep them dry overnight. It's their baby. It takes them back to those moments. And all of the sights and sounds and smells of all of those memories will come to you. So we should treasure what sound and music and voice can do, because in a world where, a podcast gets hundreds and hundreds of thousands of listeners, a radio station gets millions and millions of listeners, it's still about individuals. It's still about breaking through that speaker and going, this is about you and me and us. And you as the listener, me as the brand, and us is who we are together and the things that we can do. And that could be a new film, it could be a new car, it could be a great holiday, it could be, a new meal plan, whatever it is, that's what it does.
Brilliant. Ben, thanks very much.
Thank you very much.
Hope you all enjoyed that. If you want to catch up with Ben or you want to catch up with me, you want to take it any further, give us a shout. Thanks very much.